Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. Before we talk about will LSU host a regional as of today, I want to say something. We are usually looking at the wrong things. You look over here when you should be looking over there. And on Saturday, LSU fans were looking at the wrong thing. They were looking at the first sweep of Vanderbilt in Nashville in LSU program history. The most runs anyone has ever scored against Vanderbilt in a 3-game series. 11 RBIs in the 7th inning in Game 3, which caused the Vandy whistler for a brief yet beautiful moment in time to stop whistling and yell into the LSU dugout that the baseball gods are going to get you for that. Mr. Vandy Whistler, the baseball gods do not exist. Because if they did, you wouldn't still be allowed to go to the games. As glorious as that all may be, the most important thing this weekend that you probably didn't even think about was on Friday in Game 2. And his name was Ty Floyd. From the very beginning of the season, what did I say that was going to be the postseason ride or die scenario for this team? If just one of your young arms can step up at the end of the regular season and give you 5 to 6 consistent innings and become a starter, then this LSU baseball team has a chance to go further into the postseason and make a run to Omaha. I made that Kentucky basketball analogy, all right? You take all these young guys, they have their lumps at the beginning of the season, but at the end of the season, one of them steps up, 2 of them steps up, and they become a man at the end of the season, just in time for the most important part, the postseason. And who the hell would have thought it would be Ty Floyd? He went from a one-dimensional but beautiful fastball pitcher that couldn't throw a breaking ball or off-speed pitch to save his life to throwing 79 pitches and getting the win against Vanderbilt in 5 innings. That's the biggest thing that I took away from this weekend. We knew this offense could explode at any minute. We know what Jay Johnson was capable of as a hitting coach, but did we really learn anything new about them in that department? No. But having another arm to win a 3-game series in the postseason would. That's something you learn. Now, let's talk about the postseason. Listen to the sound of my voice. LSU will be hosting a regional in June in Alex Box Stadium. I don't care what the RPI says. I don't care what D1 baseball says. LSU will host a regional in the box. All right? 17 SEC wins. That's what I said they had to get to. 17 SEC wins. Well, they have that. I said they could sneak in with 16 SEC wins, but after sweeping the number 5 RPI team in the country with 17, they got it. All right? The NCAA is looking for an excuse to give LSU the last bid. All right? Look at last year. LSU got the benefit of the doubt by getting into the tournament when they probably even shouldn't have. Even if LSU goes 0-2 in the SEC tournament, they will host, okay? I've had people bring up other teams in past years who have had LSU's resume or close to that, whether it be another SEC team and they didn't even host or they barely were able to host. Take, for example, last year, some conference teams had the same record as LSU going into the SEC tournament, same SEC record, 17-13 going into the conference tournament, same RPI standing as LSU going into the SEC tournament, and yet they still needed to make a deep run into the SEC tournament, and they barely got a host site by the skin of their teeth. All of this is very well and true, but you are forgetting one very important thing. Those teams are not LSU. I've told this story before, but boy, is this the perfect time to tell it. So, do y'all know who Mickey Rourke is? Mickey Rourke? He's an actor. He's considered one of the greatest actors of his generation. For those of you who don't know who he is, he was nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars back in 2010, I believe, for playing The Wrestler, the movie The Wrestler, the wrestling movie. He was, for those superhero people out there, he was the bad guy in Iron Man 2. Older people might remember him from the 80s. He was in the movie Diner with the Rat Pack, all that stuff. Anyways, he's one of the greatest actors of his generation. And he went on a TV show called Inside the Actor's Studio. And the Actor's Studio is an acting school in New York City and in California where a lot of famous people have gone, and they do this show called Inside the Actor's Studio where they bring them to one of those locations and they interview famous actors and they teach them how to be actors. They ask them questions, do a biography on them, sit down interview, all that stuff. Well, Mickey Rourke a couple years ago went on this show, Inside the Actor's Studio, and they started asking him about his life, his early years, and they asked him, the age-old question, what were you like in high school?
What high school did you go to?
I went to Miami Beach Senior High School.
Were you involved in high school sports?
Yeah.
Were you on baseball team?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
I did okay until I ran into a coach that I didn't get along with.
Would that be Skip Bertman?
He had this thing where he liked to play small ball, hit and run, and he had all these signals that were like, right. And I'd look at him and he'd go, just hit the ball.
Mickey Rourke's high school baseball coach was Skip Bertman. I tell you, somebody's got to sit down with Skip, either Ronnie Rance or whoever, and ask Skip Bertman if he has any Mickey Rourke stories. It'd be so awesome. I'd love to get that in. Anyways, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that if you listen to all of those liberal arts majors and actors from New York City and Los Angeles, where it was being held, damn near none of those people watch sports. And sure as hell if they do, they don't watch college sports. And if it's college sports, they damn sure ain't watching college baseball. They all started laughing the second he said Skip Bertman, because every single one of those people knew who Skip Bertman and LSU baseball are, because they are the New York Yankees of college baseball. So don't give me this, well, Florida last year with the same RPI. No. They're not LSU baseball. They're not Alec Box Stadium. They're not kids in New Jersey with pictures of wherever the hell Florida plays their baseball at, whatever the name of their stadium is. They have pictures of Alec Box Stadium saying, I want to play for the Yankees, and if I don't, I want to go to college and play in Alec Box Stadium at LSU because of Skip Bertman. Everyone knows who you are. And more importantly, just like Deep Throat said in Watergate, follow the money. Follow the money. You know who gets the money for when you fill up a stadium in a regional or super regional play? The NCAA. Well, who has led the nation in attendance for 20-something straight years, 30-something straight years? LSU baseball fans. You are the New York Yankees. You are the Los Angeles Lakers. You are the Dallas Cowboys. You are Notre Dame football. You are Duke basketball of this sport. You put asses in seats and ratings on TV. And you will get the benefit of the doubt whether you deserve it or not. Embrace it, LSU baseball fan. You are in as a regional host. Now, having said that, bigger question. Could LSU go undefeated in SEC tournament play or win the SEC tournament and get a top 8 seed? No. They are too far gone with that. It's over, all right? But how high of a seed is LSU right now as a regional host? That all depends. Some say they're just right there at 16 or 15. So let's say LSU is 16, all right? They're a 16 national seed, which is the lowest seed you can get as a regional host. That means you are in the same bracket with number 1 Tennessee. Not good. Let's say you're the 15th seed, all right? You are now in the same bracket as the number 2 ranked overall seed, Oregon State. Also not good. So this becomes not a question of if LSU is in, but how high of a regional host seeding can you get? So Jay Johnson came out today and he said, K. Doty is fine. All right, dislocated his shoulder, but it's stabilized. He's out of the cast. He looks good. If he can play, he will. But they want to be smart about it. And Jacob Berry, who also got hit by a pitch, is day-to-day. So all of this info and all the opinions that I just gave you, you're either in one or two camps right now. Some of you might be in the first camp and you're saying, Nick, you're so full of shit like you always are. LSU needs to throw everyone out there and win as many tournament games as possible, injuries or not. They need to win more games. And then the second camp, some of you are probably saying, you know what, Nick, you're right. LSU is in as a host, but LSU still needs to rest Doty and Berry for regional play, all right? Don't use them in the SEC tournament, all right? Save them. It's not worth it. To both of you, I would say, yes, I am usually full of shit. But both of you are also right. LSU does need to win as many games as they can to avoid being in the same bracket as number 1 Tennessee or number 2 Oregon State. They need to get their wins up as much as possible in the SEC tournament. The good news is they have their chances, some very good ones. So Kentucky beat Auburn Saturday. They won the series, meaning LSU gets an extra day off in the SEC tournament, which also means if LSU wins on Wednesday against the winner of Kentucky and Auburn, you know who is available to pitch on Thursday against number 1 ranked Tennessee? Mikal Hilliard, your best starter. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not picking LSU to beat Tennessee, meaning if I had to place a bet on it, I ain't placing a bet on LSU in that game. But this is baseball, and nobody thought Kentucky would get a series win against Tennessee later in the season. So shit can happen, but I'm not picking them to beat Tennessee. But Mikal Hilliard gives you your best shot. And when it comes to also the RPI, the thing that I'm not smart enough to explain to you on how it works, LSU's RPI, or any team's RPI, goes up for playing teams like Tennessee, regardless if you win or lose. So your resume goes up just for playing those games in general. So losing it doesn't really hurt you. So even if LSU loses to Tennessee, they still have opportunities to play other highly ranked RPI teams like Ole Miss or Vanderbilt or even Auburn to add to their resume. So my preference going into this tournament this week would be to play Kentucky in Game 1, not Auburn, all right? Even though Auburn is a top 10 RPI team and it would be better resume booster, you want to get that first win out of the way. Kentucky would be the easier win. They're the 12th seed for a reason. So when you win that first game, you can have the opportunity to play Tennessee and have that extra game late into the tournament against other higher RPI teams as well. So you get your shot either way. Call me crazy, but LSU is standing in a great spot right now, really no matter what the outcome is. Just don't go 0-2 in SEC play. Try to get some wins as much as possible. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.